Hello there, you beautiful people. My name is Willow, and welcome to another Fallout 4 challenge run. In my last run, I attempted to beat Fallout New Vegas on the very hard difficulty with only companions, which turned out to be quite fun, so today I want to follow it up with something similar as we find out if I can beat Fallout 4's survival difficulty with only energy weapons. Before we jump into the run, let's lay down some ground rules. I can only use energy weapons to deal damage, power armor, VATS, and the sneak perk are all banned. I must play the entire game on the survival difficulty. I can't use any bugs or glitches on purpose to exploit the game. I will only be using visual mods, and I cannot use console commands for anything but fixing bugs. With the rules of the run laid out, let's take a look at the challenge itself. Overall, I feel this challenge is going to be on the easier sides of the ones I've done, but I definitely expect to run into some major issues throughout the run, and because this is a bit easier of a run, I've decided I'm going to take on all 3 major DLCs of Fallout 4, so strap in for a long video. With that, I think there's nothing left to do but jump right into the run, which starts in my pre-war bathroom in the neighborhood of Sanctuary Hills, where I craft the most energetic man known to Earth before staring at the washing machine for a long while until there's a ring at the doorbell. I answer the door to find a fine gentleman offering me a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to survive total atomic annihilation. And the best part is that it's free! And I love free things, so I agree and give him my eccentric name and special stats, which are a 6 in strength for higher carry weight and the heavy gunner perk, 1 in perception as it's a bit useless to me with VATS banned, 8 in endurance for the best perk Aqua Boy as well as just general survivability, 1 in charisma as I have lasers to dazzle everyone for me anyways, a 7 in intelligence because of my biggest brainus, 1 in agility because I forgot to stretch, and a 4 in luck for the bloody mess and scavenging perks. With my special stats set, I have to go console the crotch goblin known as Sean, as he just won't stop crying. After spinning his mobile a bit and talking to the old ball and chain Nora, we get told by Codsworth, our robot butler, that we are missing our favorite soap opera, and I can't have that, so I rush into the living room to find out that he pranked us and instead, the end of the world is happening. I guess it's a good thing that I got that free ticket to survive total atomic annihilation earlier, so I go ahead and run down the street and up the hill to Vault 111, where I stand on this platform for a little while until the Chinese show me a new way to deep fry, well, anything really. It's a really loud process, but thankfully I had a beautiful pair of Raycons with their awesome noise cancelling, which means I wasn't too bothered by the loud explosion. The newest model of Raycons comes with an impressive 32-hour battery life alongside quick charging, which gives you 90 minutes of battery life off of a 10-minute charge, which will keep you listening to your favorite podcasts or music as long as you need. A new pair of Raycons would make an amazing gift for your mother on Mother's Day, which is coming up soon, as they're great for those long phone calls or going to the gym. My favorite feature of Raycons has been and it will always be the active noise cancellation, as it's perfect whenever I'm going on walks through the neighborhood, as I don't really like the noise and bustle around me or hearing cars going down the street as I'm walking on the sidewalk. I just want to listen to my music and kind of zone out as I walk for a bit. If you want to pick up a pair of Raycons for yourself or your mom, then head over to buyraycon.com/willow to get 20% off site-wide, brought to you by Raycon. There are links in the description as well as a pinned comment. Thank you to Raycon, and let's get back to the run. As I enter Vault 111 and proceed to cozy up to the peas and apple cobbler as I get frozen for a couple hundred years, only awaking to watch an incredibly bald man shoot my wife and steal my son. I wake up for a final time and find myself in the vault surrounded by skeletons and rad roaches, which I nearly end up dying to as I trap all the rad roaches in various rooms before sneaking for a while to lose detection. I then grab this Pip-Boy off a skeleton and use it to open the awesome vault door. To this day, I will always love watching one of these vault doors open. It's just so cinematic and cool. Anyways, moving on, I make my way over to the elevator and ride it up to the surface, where I return to my pre-war house to find Codsworth trimming the shrubs. I explore the neighborhood with him as he kills some bloat flies before doing some building around the town to get myself a supply of drinking water. I then head over to the nearby Red Rocket truck stop, where I set up some more water and a bed before making my way over to Concord, where I watch a man who's dressed like he's from the late 1700s kill all of the raiders outside, clearing a way for me to pick up the first weapon of this run, a laser musket. Now, a lot of people will say that this weapon is trash, but to me, this weapon is one that will get us through through most of the game, as it is incredibly powerful with upgrades and capable of one massive alpha damage hit, which I hope will allow me to one-shot a lot of the enemies in my way throughout this run. With my newfound weapon in hand, I head inside the Museum of Freedom where there's more raiders. I try out the laser musket and it's able to one-shot almost every enemy inside the museum as I plow my way through to the room with the man from earlier. I find out his name is Preston Garvey. He's the leader of a group named the Minutemen, and their primary weapon is the laser musket. They are a group of good Samaritans with the goal of protecting the settlements of the Commonwealth at a minute's notice. Anyways, him and a man named Sturgis come up with a plan to get away from all the raiders by using a set of power armor on the roof. Unfortunately, power armor is banned for me, so instead I head up to the roof while grabbing the perception bobblehead along the way before parkouring my way down off the museum so I can run down this side street which spawns a Deathclaw. I then run back down the street and use my laser musket to great effect, killing some of the raiders before taking refuge in this hardware store while the Deathclaw tries in vain to kill me. I crank up a few more shots into the Deathclaw until my laser musket runs out of ammo, and then I wait for Preston to kill him from his balcony. I then head inside and speak with the group once more, and they offer for me to join them in Sanctuary. I agree to do so and then head outside and walk with them all the way back to Sanctuary, where I speak with Preston, completing the Win Freedom Calls quest. He then asks me to help a settlement, but unfortunate for him, I'm never gonna do that, so instead I make my way south once more until I happen across a junk trader named Carla who I flirt with before doing some trading. After I stock up on some ammo from her, I continue a few steps further south and find a standoff between another junk trader named Trudy and a chem dealer named Wolfgang. I talk to Trudy and she convinces me to help her take down the chem dealers, to which I agree before the fight kicks off. I mostly let Trudy and her son do the fighting, only taking pot shots at the chem dealer and his bodyguard until eventually the combat ends and I trade with Trudy to get materials for some upgrades. With my loot in hand, I head back to Sanctuary and upgrade my armor with the pocketed modification, which should help me for the next bit of this run, as I decide to head south once more until I reach the Cambridge police station, where I find a firefight going on between a man in power armor and a bunch of ghouls. He eventually kills all the ghouls and we speak, and he reveals that his name is Paladin Dance and that he's part of a group called the Brotherhood of Steel that are a bunch of militaristic techno-fetishists. Or I guess like the better way to say it is militaristic group of people obsessed with, you know, hoarding technology, but I like my one better. Anyways, he asks me to join him in retrieving a deep-range transmitter from the nearby rocket lab, and I agree. We head down the road as he talks about what his team has been through and how he is concerned about the energy readings that Scribe Halen has found, and he kills a few raiders and dogs along the way until we reach ArcJet Systems and enter the ruined building to find it overrun with a bunch of synths from the Institute. The Institute are kind of the boogeyman of the Commonwealth. They are highly advanced and nobody knows exactly where they are, but they produce these synths, and the ones we're looking at now are called the first gen synths, which are more so just robots that kind of have a humanoid shape, but they also produce synths that are full-on androids that are indistinguishable from humans and can kind of go berserk at any moment. Anyways, Dance deals with the building security and the synths relatively easily as he just continues to go through shooting everything with his laser and taking almost no damage in return from anything that attacks him. After a while, we reach this rocket room and I jump up onto this higher platform to get some free loot, and it spawns a couple of synths, which I knew was going to happen. I jump back down and expect Dance to deal with the synths, but in my miscalculation here, I didn't realize that the synths have ranged weapons because, I don't know, I mean, it's kind of obvious, but no, they shoot me and I die real bad. Anyways, I go through all of that again and find myself in the rocket testing room once more, and because I don't know how to take a hint, I spawn those synths again because I'm just, you know, built different. Anyways, they spawn and Dance manages to kill them this time before I head into the back of this rocket testing room where I get the power turned back on and Dance is suddenly attacked by a seemingly infinite group of synths falling from the ceiling. I spend a long time here watching Dance fight through the window until I notice that the dead synths are despawning, at which point I decide to press this big red button, activating a massive rocket in the room, which fries the synths and Dance alike. I check on Dance and then go through a looting spree, picking up all of the fusion cells and laser weapons from all of the dead synths in the room to hoover up as much ammo for my laser musket as I can physically hold, and after spending a while managing my inventory, I'm walking away with around 1,200 fusion cells, which should be able much get me through a large section of this run. I then accompany Dance as he clears the final room of all of the synths, and I find the deep range transmitter before heading outside, where I receive the Righteous Authority laser rifle from Paladin Dance. Sadly, this rifle is a bit useless to me, as its legendary effect is only useful for a VATS build, but I can still use it as a normal laser rifle for the time being. Anyways, I quickly make my way back to the Red Rocket truck stop, where I level up, taking the Science perk, before upgrading my laser musket with the 3-crank modification, allowing me to crank it an extra time before firing, which is useful as each crank increases the damage of my next shot. Anyways, with my now bigger boomstick, I make my way over to Diamond City, where I meet with a reporter named Piper, who is standing outside of the main gate of the city. She lies her way into the baseball stadium turned shantytown by saying that I'm a trader up from Quincy. I follow her inside and ignore the nayer. The nayer. Yes, he's not the mayor, he's the nayer. He claims nay. He is a knight of nay. This is really dumb. I ignore the mayor and beeline my way into the upper stands to find a bar called the Colonial Tap House. I head inside and take a seat at a table while one of the patrons picks a fight with the bartender and promptly gets his ass whooped. I then head outside and speak with Paul, the guy who just got absolutely destroyed in that fist fight, and he wants me to help him intimidate the bartender. I agree, and we head inside the bar once more, only for Paul here to pull a gun on the bartender, which totally was not part of the plan. After a very short fight with the bartender, he's dead, and I go about looting the entire bar, only for Paul to attack and kill me, which is incredibly ridiculous. This man just committed a murder in cold blood, but cannot tolerate me doing a bit of stealing? Seriously? Paul is a few cards short of a full deck, but he's gonna pay for it as I go through all of that again, only this time, I show Paul what it's like to chew 5 gum before stealing from the bar and finding a note on the dead bartender about a chem deal going down nearby. I quickly head over, only stopping along the way to kill a bunch of super mutants, including a legendary, which was really fun, and then I make my way to the chem deal, and I just absolutely wipe the floor with all of these gangsters using my laser musket. And honestly, like, seriously, it's a really fun time using the laser musket. It's just like so satisfying to just pop enemies. They just go away, they just dematerialize. But anyways, I go ahead and take all of the chems from these boxes before returning to Diamond City, where I do some trading and end up dying after I attempt to steal some Wonder Glue from Crazy Myrna here. But for whatever reason, I run into this bug that happens really often, where no matter what you do, all of the people in a settlement will just be omniscient and know that you stole something even if you were hidden. So I go through all of that again, but this time I end up dying to the super mutants, which was really annoying. Anyways, I ambush the chem deal again, and it goes just as well as the first time before returning to Diamond City, where I trade the Righteous Authority laser rifle for the Old Faithful laser pistol, which has the legendary effect of instigating that makes it do double damage to enemies that have max health. This should prove to be a much more useful laser rifle to me throughout this run, and with that, I head out of Diamond City and over to the Boston Public Library, where I find the Intelligence Bobblehead and a ton of robots that end up fighting some super mutants. Honestly, this set piece is always very cool to me, and I decided to take the opportunity to get a cool angle of this fight as I watch it take place. I then get jump scared by a bunch of super mutants and quickly exit the museum before making my way over to Park Street Station, which just so happens to be the headquarters of a group of criminals known as the Triggermen, who decide it wise to shoot at me. I quickly shine a light on their mistake with my laser musket as I have a fun time blasting away all the gangster wannabes, and it turns into an absolute rampage through the subway system and later Vault 114 as I have a ton of fun. I love laser weapons. In fact, the laser rifle, the standard laser rifle, is my favorite weapon in all of Fallout, both from an aesthetics and a gameplay perspective. It is incredibly fun to use these weapons, and the laser musket is so satisfying. I just love this peekaboo screw you kind of playstyle as as I fight my way through the subway and vault, and am just enjoying it while I can because I know this run is going to get a lot harder very soon. Anyways, near the end of the dungeon, I find a man named Dino talking to someone locked in the overseer's office, and I quickly remove his head from existence before freeing the prisoner, who turns out to be a friendly synth detective named Nick Valentine. He agrees to help me find Sean in return for me saving him, and with that we go about leaving the vault with little issue until we encounter the leader of the Triggermen, a big fella named Skinny Malone. Normally you'd talk with him and his crazy girlfriend, but that sounds boring, so instead I enlighten him with my lasers and slowly clean up the rest of his thugs before exiting the vault and speaking with Nick once more, who tells me to go meet up with him at his office in Diamond City for an interview about the kidnapping of my son and murder of my wife. But I don't really want to do that yet, so instead I go about upgrading my laser musket to a 4-crank version, as well as christening it with the new name Crankmeister. With our arsenal in a decent state, I decide there's no time like the present to start tackling those DLCs I said I would do. Now I want to clarify really quick, whenever I said major DLC, I think I said that, I don't know, back near the beginning of the video, whatever. I meant Automatron, Far Harbor, and Nuka World. I've decided I want to take on Far Harbor first, as it is, in my opinion, by far the easiest combat-wise, and I still don't really have a late-game arsenal just yet. So I start making my way up to the northeastern side of the map, only to run into this chaotic situation where a Deathclaw starts chasing me down, only to die to a couple of Budblugs, and then the Budblugs hilariously kill me. After that somewhat pathetic death, I decide I should get a save point along the way, so I kill a couple of raiders and steal their bed before continuing on my way northeast, only stopping to explore a few places and get into fights with rad scorpions and ghouls. It was actually quite the trek over to the northeastern corner of the map, where I find myself at the Nakano, really? Man, I'm struggling with words today. The Nakano residence, where I speak with Kenji, the head of household there. I make sure to select all of the sarcastic options when speaking with him, and they are great. Just had me laughing the entire time.
Sorry, I have this habit of running straight towards signs of trouble. Come to think of it, that explains a lot.
Anyways, I agree to help him find his daughter, and then quickly find out she went to Far Harbor by using this picture frame to find a code for a safe that contains a holotape that she left for whatever reason that says that she went to Far Harbor. I go ahead and give the holotape to Kenji alongside some more sarcastic dialogue.
A magic boat ride? Will there be sea monsters?
Before taking a boat ride out to Far Harbor, where I run into this old lady and an arms dealer on the dock. Soon after I arrive, the town is attacked and I have to help defend them, but I accidentally fall off the wall and end up dying to the local wildlife, which was a bit embarrassing. But on my second attempt, I defend the town, and after that, I head over to the town bar, where I rent a room and convince this old guy named Longfellow into taking me to a refuge for synths called Acadia. Apparently Kasumi, Kenji's daughter, went there, and by giving this old guy some whiskey, he'll lead me there. So we head off together into the wilderness of the island, and oh boy, this was painful. I die many times to various different enemies. There's some enemies that I can deal with relatively easily, like trappers, ghouls, and wolves, but the actual wildlife of the island are basically impossible for me to fight. Like seriously, these gulpers we ran into are healing faster than I can deal damage to them. Eventually, I have to cut my losses and abandon old Longfellow and run past a bunch of enemies on my way to Acadia. I do end up stopping to speak with this woman who is a part of a religious group called the Children of Adam, who worship radiation, and she tells me to go to the Nucleus, a pre-war submarine base, if I want to join them. I then enter the observatory turned refuge called Acadia and speak with this heavily modified synth named Dima. There's a couple of fun, sarcastic interactions between him and I.
No, but if I squint real hard in the mirror, sometimes I look like someone else.
But it eventually becomes apparent that he's hiding something, and when I eventually speak with Kasumi, she says she won't go back to the Commonwealth unless I figure out what Dima's hiding. So naturally, I go find a key to this storage room and hide in it so I can do some eavesdropping on the leaders of Acadia, and in doing so, I find out that Dima has a bunch of memories stashed away at the Nucleus, and he's worried what the Children of Adam might do if they find them. He isn't sure what the memories are, but they could be dangerous. I go ahead and speak with Dima and tell him all I know, and he asks me to help him out by heading over to the nucleus and recovering the memories for him.
I'm picturing your memories as just one massive holotape that the children of Adam are using as a coffee table.
I agree, and then speak with Chase, the head of security for Acadia, and she asks me to go track down a missing synth that was supposed to arrive but never showed. She tells me to meet with a man in Far Harbor for more information, and with that, I leave Acadia with a few more quests to tackle. I start off with the missing synth quest by heading back to Far Harbor and speaking with Brooks, who tells me that the missing synth went down the southern road. I follow the road and come across a blood trail, and holy crap, how much blood did this synth have? He out here painting the whole town red. Anyways, it leads me to a group of trappers that are revealed to be cannibals. I nearly die as I shuffle them off the mortal coil with my trusty Crankmeister, but when the dust settles, I find the head of the missing synth, and it's revealed that they ate him. Well, at least their last meal was vegetarian, considering it was just some synthetic meat, right? Moving on, I return to Acadia and give the head to Chase, who gets all upset that she wasn't there to save the synth, and in return, she gives me the Hitman's Institute laser rifle, which does 10% more damage when aiming down sights, which is a really good legendary effect. I then speak with Faraday here at Acadia, who asks me to go get some new hard drives for Dima, and I agree before speaking with Kasumi once more, and she wants to know what Dima is hiding in his memories. So with that, I leave Acadia again, and after spending way too long learning how to do this cool camera thing, I make my way over to the eastern side of the map, where I need to clear out a factory of ghouls and find some tools for the Mariner and Far Harbor. At first, I thought this was going to be an easy little side quest, but leave it to me to ride the struggle bus the entire time, as I end up dying multiple times to the ghouls inside, which means I have to run across the entire island a few more times because I couldn't find a bed to save that was nearby, but eventually I do manage to clear out the ghouls and find the tools and then swim back to Far Harbor and turn in the tools to the Mariner before taking on a quest from the old lady who greeted me when I arrived at Far Harbor, and she wants me to go find someone who went out into the fog to fix the fog condensers that protect the town. So I do just that and happen across a dead man who fits the description, and he was killed by a couple of Mirelurks that I quickly take out with ease. I then take the repair parts from his corpse and go about repairing all of the remaining fog condensers. After that, I decide it's time to finally head towards the nucleus, so I trek across the island, and along the way I grab the drives for Faraday after fighting through some raiders, which wasn't too difficult, before eventually reaching the submarine base, where I see a display of loyalty as two members of the Children of Adam are pitted against each other. One refuses to fight and quickly loses his life to the other, and I then speak with one of their leaders named Richter, who sends me off to have some kind of spiritual journey to determine if I'm worthy to enter the nucleus. So I quickly make my way over to this irradiated creek and drink from it before going on a massive radiation trip where I follow this misty lady while hallucinating shadow versions of all of the wildlife on the island. Eventually, she leads me to this weird bunker and I have to fight through a ton of ghouls to enter it, but luckily I'm able to use a nearby hill to snipe away at all of the ghouls one by one with impunity using my trusty Crankmeister. So far, the combat in Far Harbor has been kind of brutal. I'm glossing over it a bit as this video would be way too long if I didn't, but even situations like this where I'm sniping with no real threat of death is very taxing on my resources, and I'm slowly but surely running out of ammo. I worry that I'll have to go back to the Commonwealth to farm more fusion cells if I can't complete the DLC with my current stock, but putting those worries aside for now, I enter the bunker and I use this weird code written on the wall to find a totem and a note hidden inside, which I then return to Richter, who allows me to enter the nucleus, where I listen to the High Confessor giving a sermon to his flock before speaking with him, and rather conveniently he asks me to go into a high security section of the base that his people can't access, and this just so happens to also be where Dima's memories are hidden. I agree and spend some time managing my thirst, hunger, and sleep stats before entering this high security section of the nucleus, which is filled with turrets and robots. The combat here was actually really intense and surprisingly difficult, but in a fun new way, if that makes sense. A lot of the enemies are admittedly kind of pushovers, like the Mr. Gutsy robots that go down in one shot, but the Protectrons and Assaultrons are really tough and give me a good challenge. I even end up in this nail-biting situation where I'm hiding in a bathroom from an Assaultron who comes over over, opens the door to the bathroom, and walks in, but doesn't detect me because the way the door opened, it kept me hidden, and I would have 100% died to it right there, but it then turns around, walks away, and I continue this kind of cat and mouse game where I sneak around, take one shot at the enemy, and then run for my life and hide somewhere else over and over and over, using the Crankmeister to the best efficiency possible, and eventually I clear out the entire area and start this absolutely annoying minigame to retrieve all of Dima's memories. You have to go through and get these little bugs into a little fountain portal thing, and it is just a pain. I spent well over an hour, maybe even 2 hours here doing all of the puzzles, and I know there's a cheese, I just forgot how to do it. If I remembered how to do it, I would have cheesed my way through this. Instead, I did it legitimately, and I actually needed to do all of these because there is something I want from the final memory of Dima. Anyways, after all of the suffering and that stupid little building minigame with all of the little drones, oh my god, I hate it so much. Anyways, after that's done, I leave the nucleus. Now, I'm sure you're curious, what was it that was so important that I wanted to complete all of Dima's memories? Well, his final memory gives me the location of the Assault Marine armor set, which just so happens to be in a bunch of shipwrecks around the island. So naturally, I'm gonna go ahead and swim around the entire island collecting this entire armor set, which is incredibly strong and should help me survive the encounters on this island quite a bit more than I was before. I then speak with the mariner at Far Harbor again, and she asks me to go kill some trappers at a nearby shipwreck so she can go salvage it and improve the town's defenses. I agree to do so and head out to start picking off the trappers from range using the Crankmeister, and it's kind of anticlimactic because I just end up sniping the leader over the course of a few minutes before returning to the mariner completing the quest. After that, I decide to tackle another piece of Dima's memories by finding the nuclear launch key for the nukes inside of the subs inside of the nucleus. It's really like a Russian nesting doll, but with submarines. It's very strange. Anyways, I go ahead and make my way off to this hotel to find it's inhabited by some super mutants, which wouldn't be a huge issue, but I also managed to step on a landmine, which quickly turns me into the human-sized lawn dart that I always wanted to be. After that unfortunate misstep, I spend a long while fighting these super mutants here at the hotel. It's a tense fight as both sides are able to kill each other very quickly, so it's like a high-stakes version of Peekaboo that I eventually win out on as I reach this hotel room with a hidden safe room in it, where I find a holotape that reveals that the launch key is in a sunken boat nearby. I quickly head over and grab the key without issue before returning to Acadia, where I tell Dima all about what I've found and fail to convince him to blow up the nucleus. Oh, I also go ahead and turn in that quest to Faraday for getting hard drives for Dima, and after that, I leave Acadia, ignoring Dima's wishes by heading straight over to the nucleus to launch the nukes. Now, to be honest, I was expecting to die here a lot. I was expecting this to be a grueling, painful experience of me trying to escape the nucleus, mainly because I already knew that every NPC inside and outside the nucleus associated with the Children of Atom become hostile immediately upon trying to launch the nukes. But surprisingly, I kind of just book it, and thankfully the Children of Atom are incredibly inaccurate, so I only eat a couple of bullets as I run away and turn around to watch the pretty explosion of the submarine base. With that, there's only one last thing I need to do to finish this DLC. I need to find out Dima's final secret, and for that, I have to clear my way through the Vim factory full of super mutants, which turned out to be a Herculean task, so sit back and enjoy this montage of failure and carnage. With that absolute slugfest of a dungeon completed, I go ahead and return to Acadia and confront Dima about killing a woman and replacing her with a synth. I then tell him I'll keep it a secret, and he gives me a legendary armor piece before I head back to Far Harbor and get another legendary weapon from the arms dealer there, and with that, the DLC is completed and I return to the Commonwealth. Oh, I also convinced Kasumi to return home, and when I arrive in the Commonwealth, I attend the reunion of Kasumi with her parents. I also make some sarcastic jokes.
I get to dig up buried treasure? Yar har har.
Before completing the quest and sleeping at this nearby bed before farming a legendary freezing plasma pistol. With that, my arsenal has grown quite a bit, but I don't really use anything other than the Crankmeister, mainly because they are all pistols and I have the rifleman perk, so they just do less damage. So, before we take on the next DLC, I'm gonna go ahead and tackle that, and you can see the finished upgraded versions of all of the weapons on screen now. I really love all of the energy weapons of the Fallout franchise, so I want to show off as many of them as I can throughout this run, so I tried to make sure they all had their own unique role, from the Institute laser rifle being kind of my shotgun, Crankmeister of course being the sniper rifle, Old Faithful being turned into a kind of just general purpose rifle, and the freezing plasma rifle being my kind of oh shit button kind of weapon. It's like I need a lot of damage and I need it now. I also upgrade all of the marine armor with pocketed or lightweight build depending on which gave me more carry weight, before heading off to tackle the next DLC in my sights, Nuka World. If Far Harbor was difficult, I expect Nuka World to be hellish. So let's get right into it as I approach the Nuka World Transit Center and start sniping a bunch of gunners from distance. The gunners don't really threaten me as I can just fight them from a range and take them down one by one. The leader of the gunners does give me a bit of trouble, almost killing me, but she falls just like the rest of her ilk, and I enter the transit center, where I immediately blast this guy into another dimension before returning power to the monorail and ride it to Nuka World, where an automated tour lady talks over the intercom for a while until she's interrupted by a man who says I'll need to trust him if I want to survive what's upcoming. What's upcoming? Would it be better if I used what's coming up? Man, English is difficult. That just doesn't sound right. Neither of them sound right to me, but he wants me to trust him so I can survive the trials and tribulations laid upon me in this path. Yes. When the monorail stops, I find myself in the Gauntlet. The Nuka World Gauntlet. It's a combat dungeon filled with traps and enemies that I was super worried about because for whatever reason, I always fail during this gauntlet. I have always had to go through it multiple times and spend hours on it. Every single time I've done it, doesn't matter how overpowered my character was, I always struggle with this dungeon, and I am happy to tell you that today was different. I have gone through it enough times that I have finally managed to very slowly but surely inch my way through the mess of corridors, traps, landmines, turrets, and much more that awaits me in here without dying even a single time, and I know that this isn't some major achievement for most of you. Some of you have probably first try just dealt with it with no issue, but that's just not me. We all have our little demons we fight inside, and I just conquered one of mine because the Nuka World Gauntlet is always pain and suffering for me, and for once I get to just breeze through it, only really struggling with the room that fills up with gas. But through using healing items and having really good armor, I managed to make my way through that room and all the way to the final Coliseum, where I am supposed to confront Coulter, the overboss of Nuka World's raiders. I get funneled into this room to prep. It has a bunch of supplies, weapons, ammo, healing supplies, etc. And over the intercom, the man from the monorail speaks with me again and tells me I need to use a squirt gun to defeat Coulter. Honestly, there's some funny dialogue here, so here it is.
Is this a squirt gun?
Yeah, I know what it looks like. You're just going to have to trust me.
Well, I've always wanted one of these. Would have made a great toy for Sean.
Oh, great. You're a lucky day.
And with that, I go to take on Coulter. So the entire gimmick with this fight, or I guess boss as it were, is that he's invulnerable until you hit him with the squirt gun, and this invulnerability is technically not true. You can actually damage him with critical hits, which I didn't know about, but it'd be really fun the next time I go through here if I force myself to do it with critical hits. Either way, I go into this fight, and for some reason in my script, I wrote that I squirt and cranked on him, but that wasn't really accurate because I think I misremembered and I thought for some reason that I used the Crankmeister on him, but no. Instead, I did some squirt and splash action as I squirted him with the squirt gun and splashed some plasma all over his power armor until he stopped moving. He was very not alive. I then speak with the man that was speaking to me on the intercom earlier and find out that his name is Porter Gage, and he informs me that by killing Coulter, I just became the overboss of Nuka World. He then tells me to meet up with him at Fizztop Grill, and I go off to explore Nuka World a bit by talking with everyone's favorite bipolar robot, Nero. Ultimately though, I don't do that much exploring. I kind of just make my way straight to the grill and speak with Gage once more, who explains that there's 3 gangs that run Nuka World and I need to go meet with each of their leaders. So I run around meeting Mags, the leader of the Operators, a group that's all about making caps and guns, and then there's Nisha, the leader of the Disciples, a group that's all about torture and stabbing, and lastly there's Mason, the leader of the pack, who are a bunch of furries pretty much. After meeting all of the leaders, I returned to Gage, and it was at this point that I made the decision to allow myself a companion for this DLC in the form of Gage. I give him my laser rifle Old Faithful and a ton of fusion cells, and my only rule with him is that he must also use energy weapons for the entire time he's with me. Anyways, Nuka World is a pre-war amusement park, and Gage tells me that I need to take over all of the subsections of the park and claim them each for one of the gangs. With that, my suffering begins, and since I love sci-fi, I decided to start with the Galactic Zone, which is a park themed around space and robots, and it's an absolute unmitigated disaster for me once I walk in. The robots of this park range from pushovers to walking death dispensers. I die so many times and start getting paranoid as around every corner there could be Nukatrons with Nuka launchers that legit one-shot me with a blue explosion, or laser turrets that also kill me in a single hit, or just normal Protectrons that are tanky as hell and deal decent damage. There's even Novatrons, which, you know what, they're actually not that bad. I usually kill them before they can even hurt me. Anyways, I struggle for hours just trying to clear the outside of the park before even taking on the attractions inside, which are a mixed bag of difficulty. Honestly, some of them are super easy and then other ones are harder than clearing the outside of the park. But overall, it was a nightmare to clear all of Nuka World's exterior, but I eventually do so before taking on my first attraction, which was Vault-Tec Among the Stars for no particular reason. This one ended up being one of the harder attractions, causing me to die a couple more times, but overall it was basically just a simple dungeon crawl of killing some robots and finding a bunch of keys to access new areas. I clear it relatively quickly, as in it only took me an hour instead of multiple hours, before moving on to the hardest attraction of the Galactic Zone, which is the Robco Battle Zone, which is just a trial by combat. I die in every section of the attraction, and while we're speaking on attractions, you'll notice that throughout all of Nuka World, I don't really describe many of the attractions we go to, mainly because it's an amusement park, so the attractions are just pre-war attractions. They're little shows or roller coasters or exhibits. It's just stuff that doesn't really have a lot to explain there. There's not a lot of like meat on them bones, you know? Anyways, back to the Robco Battle Zone, I slowly make more and more progress each time I attempt it, and I feel massively outgunned here. The robots don't take much damage, and I'm using the plasma rifle as a massive crutch. But even using the plasma rifle with its insane damage output is still a struggle, as it has very slow projectiles, meaning a lot of the more nimble enemies dodge my attacks relatively easily, or I just miss because I'm bad. In the end, it doesn't even matter, but past that dumb joke I just made, I do manage to reign victorious over the battle zone after much suffering, and as I'm leaving it, battered and bruised, I take on the next attraction, which is the Interstellar Theater, which turned out to be the easiest of all of the attractions in Nuka Galaxy. Wait, is that what it is called? Oh man, I don't even remember the name of the park anymore. I've just been calling it Nuka World. I'm sure this is all confusing. Oh, it's the Galactic Zone. Either way, my stupid tangent aside, the Interstellar Theater turned out to be the easiest of all of the attractions thanks to its small layout, and I only end up dying once, which was mainly due to me being silly and just kind of barging into the main room where there was a sentry bot. All I really have to do to clear this area is take it slow and use cover, and the very few robots that are inside fall without an issue. After that, I make my way over to the final attraction, Nuka Galaxy. This was the only attraction that I managed to clear without dying, but I'd say that has more to do with luck than anything else, as it was by far much harder than the Interstellar Theater or Vault-Tec Among the Stars, and was one of the longest dungeons in the park. I have a few funny moments where Gage throws himself off massive ledges repeatedly, but other than that, it was just a long and grueling fight through a ton of robots. Each room required me to play it slow and patient, as I simply cannot stand toe-to-toe with the enemies here, but through methodical gameplay, I emerge from the other side of this roller coaster unharmed and exit the attraction, clearing the entirety of the Galactic Zone and claiming it for the Disciples. I then move on to the next park, which is arguably one of the easiest in Nuka Worlds. It's Dry Rock Gulch. The main enemies here are bloodworms, and they are kind of just worse versions of mole rats, alongside a couple other enemies like stingwings, cave crickets, and ants, but none of these are present in enough numbers to be a real threat. I do end up dying while clearing the outside of the park, but only once, and it was because I walked into a nest of ants without noticing and died to one of the flying ones. In order to complete this park in particular, I need to go do some quests for 3 different Protectrons in order to get a combination, so that way I can get a key for Mad Mulligan's mine. And overall, this area is just a place for some super fun dialogue that I'll play now.
Well, howdy there, Sheriff. Looks like you got some pesky varmints here in the gulch that need straightening out.
I don't know about varmints, but we got us pretty good, sure.
I guess I could bring a little law and order to these parts, Sheriff. You got yourself a deputy.
The
Rustle up some horses for you, huh, cowboy? I'll be back before sundown.
appreciate
Recovered from the
The
funk.
people of Dry Rock
pick them up
Gulch
at
are
the
about
entrance
to
to
meet
Kitty
the
Kingdom.
friendliest bartender in town. You have my word. Hold on to your hat, One-Eyed Ike, because I'm about to show you the fastest gun in the West.
Let's see.
Oh, yeah. Owen, Trixie, and Hank told me all about the California Gold Rush. Fun and educational.
Now that's good to hear.
But other than those funny moments, it's so much easier than the other parks, and a nice break after the hell that was the Galactic Zone, but a little bit of a letdown as I feel they could have done better with the Western theme. Anyways, I go ahead and use the combination to get the key for Mad Mulligan's mine, which I quickly enter, and the dungeon isn't really all that difficult, but it does give me my first good use case for my Institute laser shotgun, as it does wonders when fighting against things like the bloodworms, where they're just a bit erratic and hard to hit, and you mostly panic fire because they just pop up in your face. I honestly was hoping to use this rifle a bit more, but every other time I've tried it, it's been a bit disappointing. Moving on, I kill the bloodworm mother and claim the park once again for the Disciples without too much issue before heading off to tackle the next park, which just so happens to be Kitty Kingdom. Now, before we get into the park itself, I lost a small clip of footage. I think I accidentally deleted it whenever I was just going through and trimming out clips I didn't need, but basically I went to a nearby town and found a corpse of a ghoul woman named Rachel who had a holotape that had a message for someone named Oz. This will be important for later, but for now, it's time to talk about hubris and overconfidence, because I had those two things in spades coming into Kitty Kingdom, only to be cut down over and over and over again by the overwhelming amount of ghouls and constant radiation damage. It's honestly hard to say if I died more here or in the Galactic Zone, but they were both horrible experiences. So more about how this park works. There's a ghoul on the intercom system who is constantly berating me as I traverse the park that's filled with these radiation sprayers that deal constant radiation damage, and I need to reach 3 key areas to complete this park, but there's a problem. There's a ton of ghouls in between me and each of the areas, and each of the areas have ghouls inside them. It's just so many ghouls. And I thought this would be easy. I was like, oh, they're just ghouls. I've killed so many of those in the fire only run. Yeah, in the fire only run, I was using something really good at killing ghouls, and I realize that now because these ghouls don't play around. They all take multiple hits from plasma weapons. They are all incredibly fast and erratic. They all kill me in like 1 or 2 hits maximum. Everything is stressful and horrible, and I'm also on this constant timer because if the ghouls don't kill me, the radiation sure as heck will. So yeah, it's a very fun little bit of combat at the very least, but let's go ahead and talk about those 3 key areas I need to reach, with the first one I reached being the tunnels. I enter the tunnels and it's actually kind of underwhelming. There's only 2 ghouls total in here that I have to fight, and the big thing I find out here is that the man on the intercoms is some kind of magician, or as actual magic. He literally teleports in front of us, which is kind of weird, but he's the one who's trying to defend the park from outsiders and protect the other ghouls, but he's the only one that we've seen that's not feral. Also, I turn off the radiation sprayers while I'm down here because whenever I see Oswald, he's in the, like, I don't know, sprayer control room, only for me to exit the tunnels and him to turn them right back on. So thank you, Bethesda. That was real kind of you. Anyways, we move on to the next section, which is the fun house, which was very actually fun, living up to its name. This area features a lot of things like mirror puzzles, mazes, weird trippy rooms with optical illusions, and rooms that just don't make sense, and it's just a overall great time, in my opinion. I always liked this dungeon, and it wasn't all that difficult. I do have to fight through a few ghouls, there are some traps and such that I have to navigate, but it's nothing compared to the gauntlet that I went through just to enter Nuka World, so overall it was just kind of fun to go through this once again. I really wish Bethesda would like reach out and do more level design like this, because I think this is one of the best level designs in a Fallout game. Like, I'd love to hear your all's opinion about that. Go down and comment below. Do you think that this is one of the best designed dungeons in all of Fallout? Because I definitely do. I think it's very good. With the funhouse behind me, I head towards the last key area I need to reach, which is the theater. So naturally, it's inside a massive castle, which I start approaching, and I end up dying a few times trying to enter the theater due to traps and the insanely durable ghouls outside, but eventually I do manage to enter the castle proper and meet with Oswald, who just so happens to be the same Oz who was mentioned in that holotape earlier. Now, it would have been nice to just be able to give him the holotape and settle this right here, but no, we can't have that. Oswald is a glowing one ghoul who jumps down from, well, does he jump? I guess he teleports down from this kind of balcony area and uses his glowing one powers to resurrect all of the ghouls in the theater. This kicks off a big fight between me and him, where I quickly die twice. But on my 3rd attempt, I managed to down him and he teleports away before telling me to meet him on the roof. I ride the elevator up and meet with him, and after a long conversation, I give him the holotape I found on Rachel, and he gives up on fighting me. He then deactivates all of the radiation sprayers before taking all of the remaining feral ghouls and leads them away from the park, which allows me to claim it for the disciples once again. At this point, I'm sure you all are noticing a trend. I've decided it's really funny to me to give all of the land to just one raider faction, mainly because it leads to a funny situation later on that we're going to talk about. But while we're on the topic of giving everywhere but one place to the disciples, let's go ahead and make our way to that one place the disciples won't get. And while I make my way there, you should go down below and leave a comment telling me what you think about me doing the DLCs in these challenge runs. Do you like it? Would you rather see something else, like specific side quests, or are you just indifferent? And while you're down there commenting, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Moving on, the next park is Safari Adventure, where Gage and I enter to find a huge monster called a Gator Claw, which is Florida Incarnate. It's fighting with a man named Kato, and after we help deal with the Gator Claw, I speak with Kato, who has clearly been raised by apes, and he takes us to his family, and yep, they're gorillas. Anyways, he wants me to find out how to get rid of all of the Gator Claws, and I agree to help out. We do a bit of dungeon crawling through this underground research lab while fighting through a ton of Gator Claws. It's honestly not all that bad, mostly thanks to the Gator Claws staring animations with the Death Claw. It's relatively easy to avoid all of their attacks, and the only real challenge they pose is whether or not I'll have enough ammo to take them all out, as I find my stocks of both fusion cells and plasma cartridges to be dwindling. In fact, after I turn off this cloning machine for the Gator Claws, I have to run over to Nuka Town and trade for more ammo before continuing along with Kato, killing all of the Gator Claws. It takes a lot of time, but isn't really all that difficult to clear the park of Gator Claws, and once that's done, I speak with Kato and convince him to leave the park, before claiming the park for the operators, and with that, there's only one park left in Nuka World, but I can't take it on without ammo, so I quickly return to the Commonwealth and set up a massive water farm and sanctuary, and then spend a long time running around, trading, and stockpiling a ton of ammo. I then return to Nuka World with my ammo shortage solved, and go to take on the World of Refreshment in the Nuka World bottling plant. This is the last section of the park, and I enter and immediately die in a single hit from a Mirelurk, and it's here where I realize this isn't going to be as fun, as I can't afford to be hit at all throughout the entire dungeon. I end up dying a couple more times before finding a winning strategy of running away and letting the Mirelurks attack Gage while I kill them with my arsenal of energetic doom. The combat slows to a snail's pace as I have to be incredibly careful fighting through the Mirelurks, Assaultrons, turrets, and eventually, when I exit outside of the building, I'm faced with a Mirelurk Queen. The fight is surprisingly easy with the Queen, as I have the high ground, which is insanely powerful, just ask Anakin, and I slowly chip away at the Queen over the course of a few minutes, eventually felling her, before clearing out all of the remaining Mirelurks until the plant falls silent. I then claim the plant for the Disciples and have to run around to find a stim pack to heal Gage so I can speak with him. Once I do, he tells me I should go speak with a man named Shank, who just so happens to kick off the worst part of the Nuka World DLC, where you need to go create raider outposts and feeder settlements in the Commonwealth. I'll be honest, it's not within my capabilities to make this part of Nuka World interesting, so we're just gonna have a big time skip here, where I go ahead and do all of the annoying settlement building, which took me a few hours, and once that's done, I speak with Shank, and he tells me that the pack have turned on the other gangs in Nuka World, and I need to return to deal with it. So I head back to Nuka World and start fighting with the pack throughout the entire place, only to find out that they've taken over the power plant. I eventually meet up with Nisha, Mags, and Williams, the three leaders of the operators and disciples, who are going to help me take the power plant and kill Mason. Now I'm sure you're wondering, why did the pack betray everybody else? They're upset at the land distribution, and this is that funny situation I was talking about earlier, where the operators literally got one park and the disciples got everything else. The operators are still happy. Like, I just find it so hilarious that you only have to give one piece of land to one of these gangs and they will be happy because they don't have the least. It is incredibly funny to me. Anyways, the fight for the power plant is really pretty easy. Mainly due to the fact that I have 3 extra allied NPCs, and in reality all I have to do is sit back and let them clear it for me. But despite this, I managed to mess it all up and die twice during this dungeon. But on my 3rd attempt, I unlock this room that has a full set of Exa 1 power armor just sitting there, and Mags, just being a complete badass, takes it and continues to blow away all of the enemy pack members throughout the rest of the dungeon until we reach Mason, who I actually think I take him out. I think I got the last shot on him. Either way, after that, I turn on the power to Nuka World, lighting up all the parks while completing the Nuka World DLC by speaking to Gage one last time. I quickly take all of my gear back from Gage and leave Nuka World, as it's finally time to take on my favorite DLC, Automatron. So I get right to it by heading over to this crossroads near Watts Consumer Electronics, where a massive fight is taking place between some robots. I help deal with the robots that decide shooting me is a good idea, Ada and then speak with the sole survivor of the caravan, and it turns out to be a custom robot named Ada. She asks me to help her get revenge on the robots that attacked her friends, who are apparently led by someone called the Mechanist and are attacking people at random throughout the Commonwealth. I agree to help and then take Ada over to the Starlight Drive-In, where I upgrade her into a full-blown Protectron with automatic laser arms. With Ada upgraded, I go ahead and make my way over to the General Atomics factory on the southern side of the map and start fighting through a ton of the Mechanist's robots, and it's time to talk about the combat of this DLC. So I personally feel that Automatron is the hardest DLC overall combat-wise, due to the fact that robots are the strongest enemy type in all of Fallout 4. They have great resistances and durability, generally have strong weapons, some of them are even fast on top of all of that, and a lot of them blow up when you kill them, making the fights an uphill battle. I end up dying a couple of times in this first dungeon, but luckily this is kind of the easiest section of the DLC, and my plasma rifle is able to keep up with the robots as long as I avoid taking fights with more than one or two of them at a time. Near the end of the dungeon, we find a Robo-Brain, and I kill it and take the radio transmitter off it before talking to Ada, who wants me to install the radio transmitter on her, so I naturally take her back to the Starlight Drive-In and install the radio beacon, which allows us to track other Robo-Brains in the Commonwealth. Our next goal is to get a second radio transmitter from another Robo-Brain, so I head out to the quest marker, which is in just a random bit of the Commonwealth that I don't think I've ever been to before. Anyways, I get engaged into a chaotic battle with both the robots and a massive horde of ghouls that I managed to upset, and this entire area just becomes me running away and trying to snipe at the robots and ghouls with Crankmeister, but it's really frustrating as there's a lot of trees in this area, and for whatever reason, their hitboxes are really wonky, so, you know, shots that look like they should hit just don't because there's a twig in the way. You know, it's just not good. Either way, after a frustrating bit of sniping and eventually just saying screw it and getting closer, I managed to kill off all of the robots, find the Robo-Brain, and steal its radio transmitter. I then return to the drive-in and upgrade Ada even more, while she tells me that the last transmitter is in the Fort Hagen satellite array, which is a dungeon filled with the Rust Devils, a group of raiders obsessed with robots, and honestly, I can get behind that idea. I think it's a really cool idea. I think it's a very cool faction, and I'd love to see more of them in future games, or another faction like it in a future game. Anyways, I decide that I need an upgrade to my personal arsenal before taking on this dungeon, so I return to Nuka World and start the Amoral Combat questline, which involves fighting a bunch of people who have come through the gauntlet like I did in the beginning of Nuka World to challenge me as Overboss. This questline is a bit annoying at first because it requires a lot of waiting, and all of the fights are pathetically easy. Only one of the enemies comes close to killing me, and the rest die before they can even hit me. Eventually, I find a way to trigger the quest consistently by running against this wall on the outside of the Kolakars arena, and with that, I'm able to progress through all of the fights relatively quickly until I encounter the Fallen Knight and kill him with ease, which earns me the Aeternus Legendary Gatling Laser. It has the never-ending legendary effect, which with most weapons in the game means that you'd never have to reload, but does not give you infinite ammo. But because the Gatling Laser has a weird reload system where you reload one fusion core and then get like 500 shots, for whatever reason, the Gatling Laser with the never-ending effect has unlimited ammo. You can just fire it forever and never worry about reloading or running out of ammo, so it's one of the, if not the, strongest weapon in the game. I then go to leave Nuka World and encounter this haunted sign before returning to the Commonwealth, where I go on a bit of a power trip as I have a laser rampage that ends with me dying to a raider after killing a Mirelurk Queen, but after getting that out of my system, I go ahead and make my way over to the Fort Hagen satellite array, and it's a super fun time. The fights are a healthy mix of manageable and intense as I slowly fight my way through the pre-war military facility until I reach this massive room with a Robo-Brain head attached to some machinery and a sentry bot behind it named Ahab. I quickly focus on killing Ahab, and once he's down, I speak with the Robo-Brain to learn that she's named Jezebel, and that she offers to help me take down the Mechanist if I can get her out of this place and give her a body. So I continue fighting through the Rust Devil's factory until eventually running into their leader, a woman named Ivy, who has a Tesla rifle that shoots lightning, and you know I want to use that for a bit in this run, so I slowly whittle her down with my trusty Gatling laser until I fell her and take her rifle. I then leave the dungeon before giving the last transmitter to Ada and building a bottle for A bottle? No, I built a body for Jezebel, who tells us how to enter the Mechanist's lair. We need some kind of modification for a robot that has like some special doodad that opens doors. With everything set up, I make my way over to the Robco Sales and Service Center and have Ada scan this wall hole thingy. It opens the world's coolest set of doors, revealing a massive Robo-Brain factory that the Mechanist is using as their headquarters. Now, an important thing to mention here is that I've been streaming all of my runs recently, and here soon I'm going to be streaming a lot more. You all should really check out my VODs channel if you want to see more and even some different content from what goes on to this channel, and there will be links in the description where you can watch the entire run start to finish right now. Now, I know what you're thinking, why is that important? Well, halfway through this dungeon, my chat reached a donation goal to force me to drop Eternus, and then they met another goal to give it back to me after I had completed all of the combat, so it may seem a bit silly here why I'm swapping into old weapons that I've kind of relegated, so I just wanted to give you all the context and also to get you all to go check out that other channel because it's going to be more challenge run content and just generally stream VODs. Anyways, speaking of the combat in this dungeon, it was an absolute blast to go through. The fights were very well balanced. Even though I am in this late game build and I am incredibly strong, I still had some fights that were difficult to get through, but not soul crushing. I also decided to do something I've never done before by picking up all of the holotapes around the facility and then using them to enter the Mechanist's room without having to do the massive combat gauntlet. I end up killing the Mechanist because I didn't know which speech checks to choose, but after I kill them, I've completed all 3 major DLCs, and it's time to get back to the main story, where, Nick has been waiting for about a month for me to meet up with him and do an interview about my missing son. I'm a really terrible parent. Either way, it won't hurt him to wait a little bit longer, as instead I go ahead and upgrade the Tesla rifle and then head towards Diamond City testing out my new weapon on some super mutants, and it's so satisfying. I'm really enjoying it, and after all that, I speak with Nick, and after an interview, it's revealed that we need to go check out the house of a man who used to live in Diamond City named Kellogg. It's likely that this is the man who killed my wife and stole Sean, so I have Ada lockpick the door to his shack, and we enter, but only find some cigars and supplies. I then show one of the cigars to Dogmeat so he can track Kellogg, and then promptly ignore Dogmeat since I already know where Cornflakes Man is. I start making my way to Fort Hagen and use Eternus to obliterate some dogs along the way, and it's way too much fun using this gun. Anyways, I eventually reach Fort Hagen, expecting this dungeon to be easy, but surprisingly I end up dying a couple of times as I try and traverse the synth-infested fortress. The synths are really durable and take a while to kill, but I battle my way through the facility room by room until I eventually reach Kellogg, and I basically just let Ada deal with him as I wasn't interested in being destroyed by his revolver. With him dead, I scoop out some of his brains and read his diary to learn that he was working for the Institute and that he gave Sean to the Institute. I then exit out onto the roof of the fort where I see a massive Zeppelin enter the Commonwealth while using the intercom to announce that they are with the Brotherhood of Steel, and after that I return to Nick's office and spend a while speaking with him and Piper, where it's decided we're going to take that bit of Kellogg's brain I took over to Dr. Amari in the memory den to try and go through Kellogg's memories. I do just that and go through everyone's favorite part of the Fallout 4 main story, which is running through Kellogg's memories and doing, well, nothing. For a long while, until we find out that the Institute uses teleportation and that I need to go to the Glowing Sea to find a rogue scientist named Virgil. So I start making my way to the Glowing Sea, only to run into a massive group of Rust Devils on the road outside of Boston. I was a bit overconfident in my abilities here and ended up dying to them, which forced me to run through the memories all over again, and eventually I make my way back to where I was and finally reach the Glowing Sea, which was an absolute joy to traverse reverse. I had a lot of fun fighting the wildlife here, from the Deathclaws to the Rat Scorpions. A lot of the enemies here really just can't deal with me and I can kill them before they ever hit me, but it's also just kind of fun to have that power trip, and I even had this incredibly fun moment where I used my Gatling laser to mow down a ton of ghouls. It feels like every zombie game ever when they just give you a minigun and say go ham. Anyways, I speak with Virgil, who agrees to help me get into the Institute if I help him stop being a super mutant. I agree, and then he tells me I need to go kill a Courser and decode its Courser chip for him to give me the blueprints to build a teleporter. So I head over to Green Tech Genetics and start fighting through all of the gunners, and at this point, I'm a walking death dispenser. I am so high level and have such good gear that I'm able to just roll through this dungeon while only really struggling with the final boss, the Courser, and even he isn't that big of an issue as I just let him wail on Ada as me and my Gatling laser whittle him down and get his chip before leaving the building. It's here where I decide to progress the Brotherhood of Steel questline as I need someone to help me build the teleporter, and they are the fastest choice. I head over to the Cambridge police station and join the Brotherhood by speaking with Dance. I then ride a Vertibird over to the Pridwin, the Brotherhood's massive Zeppelin from earlier, and I meet with their leader, a man named Maxon, as well as the crew of the Pridwin, before Maxon asks me to clear out the super mutants from Fort Strong. I agree to do so, and then immediately fail by accidentally using the wrong Vertibird here on the Pridwin, which takes me directly to Fort Strong. Now I know what you're thinking. That doesn't sound like a fail. Well, this Vertibird has a minigun on it, which is very clearly not an energy weapon, so I can't use it. Also, it won't land until I kill this super mutant behemoth, so I end up flying around Fort Strong for a really long time. Like, this footage is sped up so much. Until the Vertibird eventually dies, and on my next attempt, I just walk over to the fort and start fighting my way through all of the super mutants here. It's actually a relatively chill time, as super mutants don't scale super well in Fallout 4. It's kind of strange, because usually you think they'd be like a really late game enemy, but they just don't scale well. So I'm kind of just overpowered compared to them, and I just blow down all the big green goons. The only issue I ever had in this dungeon was due to the fact that one of the final enemies in the dungeon, one of the final super mutants, has a missile launcher, and missile launchers, it doesn't matter what level you are, they just tend to one-shot you unless you have built specifically for that and made yourself weaker to everything else in return. Once the fort is clear, I go ahead and speak with Dance, who tells me to go report to Maxon, who completes the quest and gives me some Vertibird signal grenades, which will be incredibly useful. With that, I head over to the Old North Church to meet the final major faction of Fallout 4, the Railroad. I kill some ghouls and use this decoder ring to enter a hidden room underneath the church, where I meet with Desdemona, the leader of the Railroad. After a bit of conversation, she lets me enter their main headquarters, and she has Tinker Tom decode the Courser chip for me, while I find out that the Courser chip has jiggle physics, which is absolutely hilarious to me. Like, we got Courser chip jiggle physics before GTA 6. Oh man. Anyways, I have the chip decoded and head outside, where I ride a Vertibird over to Virgil's cave in the glowing sea, and he gives me the blueprints for the teleporter. I take them back to Maxon, who sends me to speak with Proctor Ingram, and she tells me how to build the teleporter, which I promptly do, before speaking with Maxon and Ingram one more time and getting teleported into the Institute. I then take a really slow and boring elevator ride as a man named Father monologues at me. I then ride another elevator and find Sean. He's behind some glass and confused by me calling him my son, but eventually an old man walks in and reveals that the Sean I'm talking to is a synth, and after a painfully long conversation, he reveals that he is, in fact, the actual Sean, and he's the director of the Institute, otherwise known as Father. He asks if I'll help out the Institute, and I agree. So I go around meeting all of the leaders of bioscience, robotics, advanced systems, and synth retention divisions before returning to Father, who wants me to go out with a Courser and kill a bunch of raiders at Libertalia to recover a rogue synth. So I head out there and wow. The raiders are really packing some heat. I end up dying to the raider with a Fat Man, which I honestly thought wouldn't be that difficult, but in hindsight, yeah, no, the Fat Man is always a pain. Either way, on my second attempt, I go with the strategy of delete that direction with my Aeternus infinite ammo Gatling laser. Literally, I have footage of me just holding down the fire button right now for a solid like 4 minutes. at targets that are really far away because I'm just paranoid. I don't want to get shot, and I want to make sure that that direction has nothing that ever wants to move again. So yeah, I just spend a surprisingly long but also very entertaining amount of time holding down left click as I just delete every direction that makes me even slightly worried. After enough time though, I do kill off all the raiders, reach my way to the roof of Libertalia, where I just start shooting because I don't really want to talk to these people, as X6, the Courser with me, proceeds to read the synth recall code, which is a factory reset button for Gen 3 synths, which is a little bit weird now that I think about it. They are basically completely human except for the synth chip in their head, so I guess that's how they have the synth recall codes work. Never really thought about it. Either way, he teleports the synth back to the Institute, and I teleport myself moments later. I speak with Father and get my own apartment before being sent out to recover more synths, this time from Bunker Hill. Honestly, there's not much to cover with Bunker Hill, as I mainly let the Brotherhood and my synth allies clear out all of the Railroad members defending the place. I do end up dying once by being careless around one of the Railroad members with a Gauss rifle, but other than that, I just recite the recall codes for the 4 synths and berate this Courser for a bit. Is that your Institute regulated weapon? Is it? Is that I'm gonna have to have words with Father about that. X4 has disappointed me. He lost his Institute issued rifle. We can't be having that. We're under a resource shortage as it is. Does he not understand that creating weapons takes a lot? Before heading over to the roof of the CIT ruins, where I speak with Father, who gives the most convincing argument ever to make the player not want to side with the Institute. Seriously, I don't think anyone has ever gone through this conversation and felt positively about Sean afterwards. It's such a good way to make you dislike him because he literally uses his parent as a science experiment, and he's also just like an attention grabber person. He's like, I want you to see what you would do to come find me. Like, dude, you are horrible. And he's also talking about like the surface. There's nothing redeemable about it. He's so close-minded and just, it's really, really good for making you not like the Institute, which is hilarious that it's mandatory for the Institute run. In fact, it's one of the best arguments against one of my criticisms of the Institute in Fallout 4, which is you never really see them doing evil or bad things. You hear about it and you can go to places where they have done evil and horrible things, but you never see them in the act. But this one, yeah, you are a part of the act where this dude just shows how horrible the Institute is. Either way, this is enough of a rant. Let me know what you think about the Institute down below. Oh, also, another dumb side tangent. I mentioned a Gauss rifle earlier. I didn't pick it up because on the Fallout wiki, it does not list the Gauss rifle as an energy weapon, and that's basically my criteria for what is and isn't an energy weapon, whatever is on that list. So yeah, should have said that in the intro. Back to the run, I return to the Institute and attend a director's meeting, which is mostly just boring yapping about various things until they mention 2 things. 1, Sean is dying. Good. Second one, Phase 3. It's a plan to build a nuclear reactor to power the Institute forever. Unfortunately, they need a piece of technology from the mass fusion building to complete it, and for the first time ever, I tell Allie, the scientist who joins you for the quest, to stay behind, and she just will. Like, she doesn't even fight you on it, which is kind of wild to me, because if you try and do the same thing on this quest with the Brotherhood, Proctor Ingram insists on going, and I don't think she will ever not go with you, which is kind of funny that the Institute's just like, you know what, less work for me. Anyways, I go up to the relay room and get teleported onto the roof of the mass fusion building, where the fight between me and the Brotherhood kicks off, and it's really challenging, especially when I'm faced with power armor wielding enemies, but thankfully, at this point, I've gotten some insane damage output thanks to the few ranks I've put into the heavy gunner perk, so I was able to survive the fights with the various Brotherhood members by just playing carefully and not letting myself take too much unneeded damage while laying down the pain with my Gatling laser. I eventually reach the reactor room where I hack a terminal to activate these Assaultrons early and then immediately deactivate them so I can kill them easily before grabbing the agitator from the reactor core and killing a sentry bot and some Protectrons. Honestly, the combat with the robots is kind of just old at this point. I have done it a lot throughout this run, and these were not particularly difficult, so just gonna gloss over it. After that, I leave the mass fusion building and teleport back into the Institute, where Father orders me to go save one of the Institute's teams from some gunners. So I head out to this house and attempt to use the Grey Garden robots to help me kill the gunners, but naturally I mess that up kind of royally as I just anger the robots and they want to kill me now, so I just have to kill all of the gunners and the robots all by myself. Honestly, wasn't that hard, just went on a rampage where I just lasered everything in this field and they're all gone. I then speak with the Institute team for a while, and after they manage to recruit, with air quotes, this man for the Institute, I go ahead and return to the Institute myself, where Father has me read off a speech to the Commonwealth and then sends me to go fix Diamond City's radio, which takes all of like 2 minutes. Once I go back to the Institute from Diamond City, I get to activate their reactor for the first time in this little ceremony in the reactor room. I then attend a director's meeting where it's decided that we need to eliminate the railroad, so with that, I head over to the Old North Church and just kind of start firing away with my Gatling laser until they stop shooting back at me. It was honestly a cakewalk. At this point, I am wondering if anything left in the main story is going to challenge me even a little bit, because I feel like a different style of YouTuber. Normally I talk about the combat, I talk about what's going on, I try and give a little bit more detail, but literally when it's just hold left click and wait, it's not much to talk about. I don't know why I'm complaining. Apparently this run was both very difficult and too easy. Maybe the people in the comments will finally be right about this isn't a challenge. It is a challenge, I will say that. But no, the late game of this challenge is just ridiculously simple, and I'm wondering if the final fight will be the same, because as I return to the Institute, it gives me the final quest for killing the Brotherhood of Steel by using Liberty Prime to laser their airship out of the sky. I start this quest by entering the relay room, where I'm teleported to the edge of the Boston airport, and this was the beginning of my suffering, because I asked for it. I asked, would anything challenge me in the main storyline anymore? And I have received the answer, yes. Yes, it will. The Boston airport is no joke. The Brotherhood here, especially the ones in power armor, are able to both withstand and dish the same level of damage as I can, which means I'm basically fighting a bunch of people at the exact same level as me, and it's a real pain. I die over and over and over, and I get really upset with vertibirds because vertibirds use the same AI that dragons from Skyrim do, and the dragons in Skyrim, well, when they die, they try and fall really close to you. But when vertibirds die, they do the same, except for they explode, and explosions on survival mode are just a death sentence, so I die multiple times to killing vertibirds. I killed the enemy, and then I'm punished for it. It's not fun. Anyways, I struggle for a really long time. I have to focus in, and I have to draw out this fight as long as possible by playing it slow, and that turns out to finally be a winning strategy as I protect the synth that's uploading the virus into Liberty Prime long enough, and then he turns and goes all, you know, Hindenburg on the Pridwin, and with that, I return to the Institute and speak with Sean, completing the main storyline while answering the question, can I beat Fallout 4's survival difficulty with only energy weapons? Yes. Yes, I can. And I can even tackle all of the DLCs too. I can make it even harder on myself. It's been a really fun run, and if you liked this run, I think you'll also like the run where I tried to beat Fallout New Vegas with only companions, my last run, as it was a really fun time. Thank you so much for watching. Go down below and comment a challenge run suggestion if you haven't already, and of course a special thank you to my YouTube members and patrons, as their support helps keep this channel running. You all are beautiful, and this is Willow, signing off.
Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and